Pastor Marvin Davis to pray for us and Mr. David Warner to lead us in the pledge.
May we pray. Most heavenly, most gracious God, we just want to come to you with praise and with thanksgiving, just to say thank you.
Okay.
We thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon our city leaders, our governor, our president, our Congress. And we ask you to come into this meeting today, God, and we ask you to lead and guide us, give us wisdom and knowledge that we may implement the policy that will better your people. We ask all these things in your son's name. Amen.
Amen.
Face flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will call the regular meeting of the city commission to order. Thank you all for coming and showing your interest in our city. And the first item on the agenda is a consent agenda, which consists of the minutes of our January 3rd meeting. I think there's a mistake on the agenda there, so it's a January 3rd meeting. Entertain a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Ashbrook, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Langston. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed 4-0. Commissioner Lowry is out sick today. All right, Mr. City Engineer, you're next on the agenda.
Good afternoon. Working down the list that's on the agenda, for Long Avenue Water and Sewer. We're still working through the closeout on that project. We actually have a meeting with L&K at Newberry tomorrow to discuss the final closeout items and speak with a contractor and try to figure out what we need to get done to close out the financial side of this project. The paving, contractor is mobilized on the 3rd. They're working through that right now. The drainage pipe and structures that we've spoken about that are ordered for First Street should still be on schedule to be delivered by the end of this month. So that should be completed soon thereafter, and we'll be able to finish up First Street paving. So still no push in time past the end of this month that we're getting from the contractor on being able to get that drainage crossing on First Street. Avenue C and D, they've had some issues with their milling machine. It was supposed to begin yesterday, but they're down. So what we've been told is milling will begin on C and D on the 23rd, which will be next Monday. I think the other item we have is the change order. I've got a change order that I provided to Jim for asphalt patch quantity. There's a lot of asphalt patch on Avenue C and D, and we had a mismatch on quantity on our end of what actually needed to be done. After we had the pre-construction meeting with the contractor, we went for a site visit, and there's more patching that needed to be done. So that increase in quantity is for the extra amount of patching that needs to be done. I spoke to Jim about this. It's a quantity that should have been in the bid, but it wasn't. And I felt like that Newberry should own some responsibility in this. So what we've talked about doing is splitting the 17,390, where we're responsible for 50% of that increase to the city.
Everybody understand the change order as presented? Okay, I need a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Mr. Langston made a motion to approve it. Is there a second?
Second, providing it doesn't happen again.
Okay. Second by Commissioner Ashbrook. Any discussion? Anybody from the board, anybody from the public? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed 4-0.
Dr. Joe parking lot, which I should have that tied in on the agenda with Long Avenue now, since that is part of the Long Avenue project, but they are actually overworking now on that, getting grades set, getting that ready to pave. So that's actually the part that they're focusing on the Long Avenue right now, is on the Dr. Joe parking lot. First Street, we've already discussed, that's still on hold, but the hope is end of this month, we get inlets in, make the drainage crossing, and Pickett can come back and finish that project up. The last item we have is a Beacon Hill sewer. We have a pre-construction meeting scheduled for tomorrow with Mainline. So the expectation is that we leave that with a start date for construction.
Josh, what, timeline do you for the Beacon Hill sewer lift station? Once they get started, how long do you think it'll take to get that?
I don't have the contract documents in front of me. I can't remember if that was, John, do you remember if that was 120 days or 180?
I don't recall.
It could have been, it may have been a 180-day job. I can check the contract docs and get back with him. We'll have a better feel tomorrow, and I think the reason, I don't think the actual work will take that long. It'll be some of the long lead items, material that's being ordered, but we should have a good idea tomorrow of exactly what the timeline's gonna look back, so at the next meeting, I'll be able to report back to you guys.
Right, the 6 months, we start getting into, close to our contract, with, the sewer, Frank and his sewer outfit, which I think September, but still, time flies, so.
Yes.
We need to get going on it.
I'll put that in front of the contractor, kind of what our timelines are, but we'll push it ahead as quickly as we can.
You know, we all hope to get it done well before then,
Right.
so, okay.
I think that's all I've got on my list.
Anybody got any questions for Josh? All right, Josh, thank you, sir. Okay, next is the, planning board recommendation.
Yes, sir, Mayor. At the last planning board meeting, you had two requests for development orders. The first being the Rich Family Plaza and second being the St. Joe Company's Windmark Beach North Townhomes. Both of these items did get a favorable recommendation for you today for consideration. The first one will be the Rich Family Plaza. I believe we have representation here today.
Afternoon.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Jim. I've got a rendering here to pass out. Sorry, I'll be in trouble. Those colors aren't the colors we're gonna end up with, but it's pretty honest market preliminary for you, so. Rich Family Plaza LLC is proposing to construct a new commercial development consisting of 9-unit retail office spaces on 11 existing parcels, Section 1, Township 9 South, Range 11 West, Gulf County, Florida. At the north, where the location is at the northwest quadrant of the intersection of Cecil G. Causton and Garrison Avenue, which is what we call First Street, for a total of 1.76 acres. The development will have a 24-foot wide asphalt driveway, 6-inch modified type D curb along the pavement. New drainage inlets and stormwater facilities will be installed throughout the site. 3 new stormwater management facilities. The development will also provide a new sidewalk along Cecil G. Causton Boulevard. It won't connect all the way down to where the sidewalk stops, but it will in front of their property, so it'll be an easier transition at some point in time in the future. We've also got our wetlands permits, our stormwater permits. We've got the water permit back. We don't have the sewer back yet. John just signed those after we got this from the planning board a week ago. We've already got the water back, waiting on the sewer. We've got our DOT drainage connection permit. And we're waiting on the final permit from the DOT on the driveway connection.
The turn lane.
Yes, sir, that's without the turn lane. So we're 99.9% sure that's been taken care of.
Okay.
So we want to fool with that.
Okay.
Yes, sir. That should be, yeah, got John on water and sewer, so we should be good to go on everything. We should, that sewer permit, I was trying to get it back before today, but it just didn't get back here, but it should be back. We had to pay the fee, I think Thursday. I was expecting the permit on Friday. I should get that permit today on the sewer. And that'll wrap it up.
Anybody got questions?
How many parking spaces are required for this development?
We've got way more than we need. I'll tell you right here in a second. We are required 44 spaces and I put 73.
Hopefully it's just one restaurant.
I don't think it's gonna be any restaurants, it's retail and offices, so is the plan, so.
Anybody else? But you still haven't received all your permits?
I've got the DOT and the DOT connection and the sewer, and I just, if it's okay for contingent upon those two items, but they should be back any day now.
Okay. John, you got any?
No, I don't.
You good?
I'm good.
Okay. Anybody? Okay.
John actually had a great idea about trying to get a manhole there on First Street before we start back on that job to get it done. So I emailed Grant about that, Friday. So I'll talk to him about that today. He just called me a few minutes ago, so I'll let him.
They have installed a doghouse manhole in First Street, so we're trying to get it done.
We're trying to get it done before we
Good.
get that paving started again. We're gonna try.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to, approve the Rich Family Plaza contingent on them receiving all their permits.
So move. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hoffman, second by Commissioner Ashbrook. Discussion, anybody else? Anybody in the audience? Anybody?
I'll just make a comment and I hope that it relieves some of the traffic issues on Reed Avenue. There's some more options as well.
Yep, we're growing. Okay, all in favor, aye? Opposed, same sign, motion passed 4-0.
Thank y'all very much. Have a good day.
Yes, sir. Next, development order request for St. Joe Company with Windmark Beach North Townhomes. Josh, you gonna speak on that?
So this project for Windmark Beach North Townhomes, on parcel 04227-000R on the north side of 98. It's 78 townhomes on 8.86 acres. The development is above the base flood. The roadways and utilities will be public, stormwater is private. No wetland impacts, outside of the DEP and core impacts. We do have all the DEP, permits for the wetland impacts. We do have the stormwater permit, the water and sewer. John has made some comments on the water and sewer. We have those addressed. We've got to provide those plans back to him for final review and sign off on the permit application. So we do not have the water and sewer permits in hand, but we'll apply for those once we address his comments. And the DOT, connection permit has been applied for. It only has tapers, not a full turn lane. So this would be just as Jack stated, this would be a request for approval contingent on receiving the permits.
John, what are your concerns?
Well, there was connections for water and sewer as well as the lift station itself. So I don't recall all, it was back in December, I sent that.
Do we need another lift station?
There's one as part of the project. So there was some tweaking of the water lines, it was, the lift station parcel itself, the lift station itself. So again, I'm waiting for a response back from Dewberry.
Okay. All right.
Are you comfortable with us moving forward and making a motion and possibly approving it based on where you are in the questions and concerns you currently have?
If it's contingent upon the approval, yes, I am.
Okay. Any comments? Okay. Entertain a motion to approve. Pending, receipt of all necessary permits.
So move.
Okay. Mr. Langston made a motion, there's a second.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Ashbrook. Comments, anybody? Yes, David?
Quick question. Do y'all know when the repaving of that 98, bypass 98 is on the schedule? It's getting some degradation, and obviously you've seen there's been a lot of development along that stretch.
Yeah.
And this is another additional development, a lot of trucks and everything, but there's some degradation to that highway, and it hadn't been done for 15 years, so I didn't know.
Anybody know what the five-year
Anybody know?
plan is for DOT on?
I don't, I've actually asked that question to Andy White, last week, so I'm waiting to hear back from him.
No. I think you can go on DOT's website and get that information,
You
yeah.
can, there should be a spot we could go to District 3 and see the 5 and 10-year plan. I've heard there was a little bit of movement for the Gulf Coast Parkway and some road work, but I'm not sure exactly where it's at in the plan, but yes, we'll check it out.
Okay. All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed 4-0. Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Clint.
All right, just one thing on the agenda today, Mayor. And last week, we received a letter from Jim Norton on behalf of Norton Family Properties LLC. As you may be aware, he owns that building that's right across from Taco Bell. It's the buy and sell place. Well, apparently, he's got that under contract to sell. And in doing the survey, it was discovered that there's a city right-of-way that runs right behind that. And that building is encroaching on the city right-of-way by approximately 4 inches. He is just simply asking us, and I guess I'd be asking the board for approval, for us to write a letter saying we don't intend to force them to tear down that building because that it encroaches on the city right-of-way that no one knew was really even there for the last 60 years.
Yeah, it's been there about 70-something years.
Wouldn't the process be to go to PDRB board for that?
Could, but they want it from us. I mean, it would delay the process. And that's-
It just seems like he's jumping that step, and we ask everybody else that wants the variance to go through those steps.
He's not really asking for a variance, he's just asking for a letter.
Yeah, we approved something, I think very close to this request,
For Nick.
down on Reed and the fire station and all that.
And then actually in that one, we actually gave them a quick claim deed saying that we would give it that few inches,
What was the purpose of that easement?
which easement.
What you're talking
This
about?
is actually an alleyway. I honestly didn't know it existed either till we got a copy of the survey, but you're looking at the survey, there's an alleyway that extends. If you look at avenues A, B, C, and D, there's alleys in between. Those alleys actually extend, right beside the building now. So we don't know if it goes all the way to the fence or all the way to the old mill site, but as it sits, there is an alleyway there. And 4 inches encroaches upon that alleyway. So, I think it would be appropriate to give a letter stating that, as it sits today, the city doesn't have a problem. Now, if he was to go and expand the building, enlarge it, do something different to the site, then he would need to come
I
back
guess
and get a
the
variance.
question I'm trying to get to is it a necessary alley, or can we just abandon that alley?
Well, there's a process to do that, and what you normally have is you'll have both property owners that would come to you and request an abandonment of that alleyway, and then half the alley would go to this neighbor and the other half would go to that, is how that would work. But yes, so there is a process by statute to do that.
But no one's asked us.
Not yet. Okay.
Seems like that's the easier route.
Yeah, I don't want to abandon anything.
Yeah.
It's owned by the city, but
I think the easiest route is to write a letter saying that we don't plan on making them tear the building down for the 4-inch encroachment. They've been there for decades.
Okay. I'll need a motion for this request.
motion to approve.
Okay,
A second.
okay. Mr. Hoff made a motion, Mr. Langston second. Any further discussion? Anyone? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed 4-0.
That's all that I had on
Oh,
the
you
agenda.
got it? All righty. Jim?
Yes, sir. The first item we have is the city projects. We'll turn over to page 99. You'll see the addition of the Buck Griffin Lake. We have had some success on the repair of the spillover. So John has done quite a bit of work over there, so we're hoping that it's going to hold. So right now, everything's looking good as of today.
Yeah, I looked at it today and the pond is back as high as I've seen it, other than flooding over. So something's working. I appreciate you doing that.
You notice, quite a few of these projects are underway and getting ready, get going and completed, so hopefully we'll work this, list down a little bit, but it does look positive. Anybody got any questions on projects?
What about this, do you have anything about the skate park, Jim? Kids with the skate park?
I have not heard anything from the organizers. I know the last I heard, they were trying to look for some grant funding, but I have not heard anything.
Okay. Any other questions?
Any hope for the Centennial Building? We get any more bids?
We had a meeting last week, mayor actually sat in on the meeting, and the plan is now to go back and look at the scope of work, try to work with what we got to make sure that we can get some of this project done. We got one bid last time that was way over bid, so he's working on, the architect is working on putting together a new scope of work so we can go out and bid.
We had a long discussion on things that we felt like were not needed, and they agreed, and, they actually think, once they get that new scope of work, we'll probably need to go out for a bid, again, rebid it. So, we're all making a little headway. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, as with most projects we bid out in the last year, it seemed like nearly everything's come in over budget, so we've had to rework a little bit.
Okay, anybody else? All right, new business?
Yes, sir. First item we have is Mr. David Warner's here today. Want to talk to us about the Port Theater rebuild status.
Thank you, gentlemen, ladies. First of all, I want to, a couple things I want to say is how appreciative I've been recently to work with your city staff. Every time we've called them, they have been very responsible on multiple issues, not related to the theater. I'm hoping that will continue when we start working on the theater, but I've called John on some things and Jim, and they've been great to work with. So I just want to give y'all a compliment. Y'all got some great staff doing some things. And the second thing, Trish apologizes for not being prepared. She hadn't spoken to her board yet, but I just want to say downtown beautification looks great. Hopefully it survived the winter and the weather that we had. So I'm here today to, as promised, to give y'all an update on the status of the Port Theater. Proud to be here representing our board. We have 10 board members. We've added a few new, very talented board members recently to help us work towards the development recreation of the Port Theater. Since we closed in when Hurricane Michael hit, we have been working very hard to get some large grants to assist us in getting this thing back together. I know it's similar to a city project, so it's been an arduous path, and we have battled with FEMA. And just to let you know, we have been qualified for about $1.1 million worth of FEMA grants. When we went out the first time to go get bids, that wasn't enough to do what we wanted to do, not even close. That is in the 75-25 grant, so we're going to get to spend about $850,000 worth of that money. The National Park Service, through the legislature, Florida legislature, last year, granted us $500,000 to do enhancements beyond the FEMA grant. The FEMA grant is to restore the theater to its like kind prior to the storm. And as everybody knows, that was a beautiful and lovely, productive shell of a building that with a little extra work, we could have probably opened it full time, but it needed a lot more work, as y'all well know. So the restoring it to its prior status is not going to be what we want to do going full time. So this $500,000 from National Park Services is going to help us to enhance that status and help us pay for some things that we probably are going to have trouble getting bid out properly. And secondly, the state of Florida has finally come through with a historic preservation grant last legislative session. Jason Chofe and our local delegation and Jay Trumbull worked together to get us through this grant cycle. We got $436,000. We asked for 500, but they reduced the roof that we already put on the building. We had that in the grant, and we probably shouldn't have, but we already paid for that. So $436,000. So the total grant funding that we have received from the state of Florida, including the acquisition grants, about $2.1 million is what we have raised and have in the bank, ready to go to work on that theater. $350,000 of that was for the acquisition though. We have been very active in trying to raise some private funding, and just to let you know, we have been pretty successful. We are still wanting to raise about another $500,000 towards our goal. We're going to initiate a fundraising campaign to try to top off our coffers to make sure that we have enough money to build this building back how we want to. We have raised about $575,000 in private funding towards the theater. Our major donors to this point right now are the Tapper Foundation, St. Joe Community Foundation, Doctors Bixler and James, the AI Pont Testamentary Trust, the Community Foundation of North Florida, the Charles Whitehead Foundation, and I'm proud to announce, our board doesn't even know this, that Centennial Bank has come on board as a major donor at the tune of $100,000 this past weekend. That money hit our bank. So we are fortunately going to be able to start this project a little flush with cash on hand to cash flow it. We got a strategy to try to get us through this process. We're working with Carter Keena, with Keena Grundhopper, architects out of Pensacola, who is also working on the Methodist Church here in town. They have a lot of historic preservation and restoration experience. We proudly can say that we went out for RFP the 5th of January, and we have it on the street. I've heard that there's interest from 3 to 4 contractors. We worked really hard over the interim to kind of put the bug out there and tell everybody it's coming. It's going to be a fun project. It's not going to be crazy complicated. It's a project that they can sink their teeth into. And I know that there are 3 or 4 that have been asking it for information and to work on doing a bid. Our bid deadline is February 9th. And at that point, we will reconvene, rank our bids. Hopefully we'll have one that we can afford. Because as y'all know, when they come in and they're bigger than you expect, you got to stop the process and start all over again. I'm confident with all this extra fundraising we've done, and we've scaled back from the last time we bid. Some of the things that we really couldn't afford that Carter put in there as kind of wish list items. Hopefully we'll be able to build a theater back that will make y'all proud, and the city can display as a crown jewel of downtown Reed Avenue. And we'll do everything we can to keep them on Reed Avenue and not go on to the other fancy highfalutin developments that might be happening in the neighborhood. Now, they can have theirs too, but they're gonna have to build their own theater. As y'all know, that a lot of these grants have match requirements. Currently our DHS or Historic Preservation Grant have a 1-to-1 match. So they're wanting us to have a $436,000 match. It can be adjusted because we are a ready community. I assume we're still a ready community. Is that correct? But yep. We can ask for a reduction of that. I do believe that we can request that our FEMA and our DHS monies be part of that grant also, go towards our match. However, in the years past for our DHS special categories grant, the city has committed to a $50,000 match towards our grant to do that. And I'm here today to officially request, if I could, the fulfillment of that obligation from years ago that the city committed towards our DHS. We went through, as y'all know, multiple years of applying for these grants, and either at the last minute got vetoed or whatever happened, or something would happen in the state of greater importance in theaters, and that money got wiped out. Charlotte's very familiar with this process. So I would like to just officially make that request that we can count the city in as also as a participant in our funding.
Yep.
Are there any questions? Well, I brought the plans. I do have them. They're
It's exciting, to hear you're finally moving fairly rapidly, and, hope by, second quarter sometime we'll see some work being done.
that is about when we expect to have a contract in place. If everything works as we expect, and we hope, we can have a contract in place by April and be under construction, soon thereafter. They're not gonna wanna wait around. They're gonna wanna go. We're also gonna need, in addition to hopefully getting some cash support, from the city to support our needs, we're gonna need a lot of support because we are zero lot line. We're gonna be on the sidewalks. We're gonna need parking spots. The alley is gonna be impeded, during this, just naturally during this construction. So we're gonna need your patience and cooperation as we go forward and, get this thing done.
Good. Anybody got any more questions? Jim, we need a motion on the, 50,000 that we obligated. Okay, entertain the motion.
Did we escrow any of that money that we had committed? I mean, it was 3 or 4 years ago,
No, I don't
5 years
believe that
ago.
those funds were escrowed. I'd have to go back and I don't have that paperwork with
The
me.
only reason I ask is it was the CRA that had made that pledge, and of course, it's the city as well, but.
Yeah, I don't have those documents with me. There, I can. I don't think that we did.
I'll make the motion if the money's out there.
Okay. All right, the motion.
So what was the motion exactly? If the money's out?
No, if we can come up with the money in our budget, I'm assuming we'll take it out of the 1.4 that we got from the county, is my assumption.
Yeah, because that was CRA.
That was CRA money.
Supposed to.
Yeah. I just don't want to tie it down.
No,
I mean, we
it's
pledged
not.
the money.
It's not impeded.
All right, there's a motion, there's a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hoffman. Any discussion? Anybody? All in favor, aye? Opposed, same sign, motion passed 4-0.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes, sir. All right, next item.
Yes, sir. The last item we have is city license requirement. We had a discussion at our last meeting and we decided to table it, bring it back.
Okay, last meeting, we had, presented by Public Works and the, police department, items of, that would be required, I assume, by the department, for 2 employees, under the water department, 2 in the city. It's all spelled out. Police, has training, in front of you that would allow, these employees to, get, incentive pay and, $1 an hour, I believe it was. Questions for me again, will these be requirements of these employees?
Well, as I said in the last meeting, I mean, I don't want to, as the water and wastewater plant is done, make their employment contingent on that. Now, these are licenses needed, but I really don't want to make a requirement if they can't get it or have 6 months or a year, I do not want to terminate them and move them somewhere else.
Well, currently well, you're talking about water department, not the water plant and not the sewer plant. Right.
I'm referring to water plant and sewer plant, correct?
You are referring to that.
Correct.
We already have requirements in place.
They do. Those are, I think, signed off on when the employees are hired, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
Correct. And again,
They know it coming in. If you're gonna work here, you're gonna have to get a license. And then when you do, you're gonna get incentive back.
Correct.
Okay. And under the police department chief, requirements?
No, sir.
Okay. All righty, that's all the questions I got. I'll open up the floor, anybody else?
I'll remind the board that the discussion we started had nothing to do with requirements of employment. Zero. It had to do with discussing having better, more well-equipped, trained employees. We did identify that 2 of our departments had required license for employment. But the discussion on the list of ideas for license currently that we're discussing, because I'll refer you to the police department's list. It's certifications for incentive pay. Policemen don't have to be any of the things on the chief's list for employment. They don't have to have it now. They didn't have to have it when we hired them. But you'll have a better officer when you have a field training officer, a toxilizer inspector, a crime scene evidence management officer, and a basic law enforcement instructor. Those are benefits to the city. And that's what I tried to get us to focusing on when it comes to public works, because public works and the police department were our only 2 departments that did not have some way of incentivizing an employee to be better prepared for their job. And we discussed one of the licenses that is required by the state, but currently only John had that license at the time. So we had an employee that took the class and received the license. That's a benefit to us. So while it is tabled from last meeting, I reached out and spoke to some of the employees because I think it's important to hear from the employees. What license, what training would you like or suggest that the city looks at for you to be a better employee? I have not finished with compiling input, and I'd ask that we have more time, or give me more time to continue those discussions. And then I'd be prepared to speak with Jim and John on what I feel would be a fair compensation to the employees. And I also remind you, in our budget cycle, we passed not a monetary amount to this, but in concept, at least looking into the idea of allowing employees to receive certification. And remember, we've already agreed that it has to be a class that would help the city, or a license that helps the city, helps the employee know their job well. And then it has to be approved or denied before we have a financial obligation to pay them. So it's not like they're gonna turn in 40 letters saying, well, you gotta pay us now. That's not how it works. So I would just ask that we leave it tabled.
I just think we're getting dangerously close to micromanaging HR issues. It would be simpler for us to say, here's $10,000 in your budget, John, for incentive pay. You guys work out what's important to you. I don't think we need to be deciding what's important for your employees or the police department. If we simply say, here's money to use for this program, and we lay out some guidelines, I don't want to have to come to this meeting and hear, John ask if he can get one of his guys a pest control license. That's your decision. It's your department. I just think that we're really digging too deep into it. If you want a project to go out and help him with that, I just don't think that it's something that needs to take up our time at these meetings. We all agree that we want incentives. We just got to figure out how. And I think the department heads are better equipped to make those decisions than the board. That's what I have.
Well, here's my comment to that. If that's the case, why do we have 2 departments for the last, I don't know how many years, that had a license that we paid for? And yet we had a police department that we didn't pay or offer the officers the ability to be trained, be better officers, serve the public better. So I'll point that out. And second, once we've developed the different license that we approve, we're done. the only other time we would visit this would be at the budget cycle, when we set the number to it.
Right, and I'm just
But
saying, we need
we're
looser
just-
framework. We
Yeah.
just need some framework for them to work within.
Right, and that's what we're working on currently, to try and develop, do we want to pay for some of these licenses? Or do we want to add something and strike something off this list?
Well, just a perfect example, Scott, this list is very fluid. You know, the state of Florida finally required all hospitality employees to take a sex trafficking course. Why isn't that on the list? You know, why shouldn't one of our officers be the expert on sex trafficking? We're looking at getting a bunch of new hotels in town, and that's something that could be a problem in this community. So, I mean, I just think this list is gonna be forever changing. If we just say, look, you can train your officers, if it's a value and you think it's a value, we have a budget for that item for you to send that person to school and pay them extra. I just, trying to nail it down to what courses are necessary. These are very basic. Everybody knows these courses, but there's a lot of other things they could take. I don't want to nail ourselves down to a list, is all I'm saying.
And you're saying the bonus pool would be there in case something else came up.
They give them $10,000 or $20,000 to spend on incentives.
Right. I mean, I agree with Commissioner Hoffman. All these things would make a better employee, and a lot of other things too. I guess, you know, I'm just old fashioned. Where's the day when a person would just want to go out and better himself and take a course in any of these things? You know, we're just holding a carrot out there. I want an employee that's aggressive enough that he'd want to do this to better himself and would make a better employee, and then he'd, I'm sure, move up, what have you. But we're really opening this giant can of worms and going down a slippery slope, I think, taking these matters away from our city manager, who says we pay him to do it, it's his responsibility to do it, so.
Well, the question too about starting pay, Mayor, are we gonna hire an officer that is all of these things and pay him $4 extra an hour because of the qualifications he came to us with, or is it still starting pay? I mean, these are all things that we need to say in our policy and then let them run with it.
But I think that's why, it's important for us to continue to look at it and if Commissioner Hoffman wanna, do some more, conversation with some of the employees or whatever, I think it's a good idea for them to do it. That doesn't mean that we haven't made a decision or, that we're gonna make a decision on this right now. I mean, we got time to table it and talk about it and see where it goes from there. I really believe in city pay. I think it's a good idea, as far as keeping your employees. I think it makes your employee work, toward a goal, and it keeps your employee, there, here. So there's a lot of things to think about. Money is a lot, money means a lot, money is, the key issue, but it's also, let's think about, you have to think about the employee side too. So that's why I feel, let's take a little more time to think about it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, there's possibly other ways to accomplish what Commissioner Hoffman got in mind without being so specific, but I'm fine with tabling it.
I'll tell you what I have in mind. I have in mind paying our employees a fair rate based on their training, certificates, and their willingness to make themselves better employees. The reason is we currently have how many openings? 8? 8 openings. How many applications have we received out of the 8? Or how many
We've
interviews?
received Some applications, but these are for new positions, they're not for existing positions.
How long have we had them, the new positions? How long have we been advertising?
Budget year, October, November,
late
December,
November, something like that.
Right.
somewhere along in there.
So we have a problem hiring and filling the new positions. So then you have to decide, what can we do to solve the problem? One thing I know that works, and that is increase the salary. And that's why I have the last 2 budget cycles argued successfully to pay a higher salary. We're still not there. And I know that department heads think, well, if you keep paying the working staff more and more and more, what about us? Well, we get to the what about us group after we pay our workers more, because then the department heads can say, well, I'm only making it a little bit more than those. And then we focus on that. You have to start at the bottom. The bottom is the new hiree. I'll never say pay that person more or even close to the person who's been on 1, 2, 5, 10 years. It's all in increments. That's why I don't like these across the board pay raises that we've done the last 2 years. And I'll continue to say that. You have to break it down into time served. How many years do you have on? What training do you have? Across the board, we just continue to have compression of pay. Well, we gotta get away from that. That's all I have on it.
No, no. Okay, next item. Mayor Brown.
I don't have anything there unless there's questions from the board for me.
Chris got what you done?
No, sir.
That all, Mr. Lunch, yes. Okay. All right, got a report, surface water.
Yes, sir. Larry's actually running the plant today, Mayor, but, nothing new.
Okay, how's Kevin doing wastewater?
Kevin's still out on medical leave. Joe is running the plant for him. They've been spraying this past week, so everything is up and running at the plant.
Okay. Mike,
I don't have anything there unless you have any questions for me.
somebody got any questions for the finance director? Okey dokey. Code enforcement. I think everybody's got a list of, violations here that have been ongoing for a while. Jim, you want to report on those?
Yes, sir. As you're aware, we've been having ongoing code enforcement hearing meetings over the past 6-8 months, trying to resolve a few issues. You've got 3 before you today that have been heard before the special master, and no action's been taken by the property owner. So we're to the point now of coming back to the board and get some direction, because we have not gotten any movement from the property owners. The first one is actually Timothy Elder, 1310 Long Avenue. If you turn over to page 102 through 105. And you actually have a list that was actually given down by Mr. Burkett in reference to what would be required out of the order. And the request is actually on page 105. We're to a point now, we've got to make some decisions. Request for bids to demolish the structure and place a lien on the property for all costs involved in the cleanup. So we got to make a decision. Is that the right thing that we need to do based on this order we have in front of us?
Jim, how much money do we have in our cleanup fund?
We had, I believe, 50,000 last year, and I think we escrowed a little bit from last year, if I'm not mistaken. But I know we have at least 50.
Is somebody in this, living in the
This
place?
one, no, sir, nobody that I know of is living in this house. It's been vacant for many years.
You said 50,000.
Yes, sir. It's 50,000 last year.
I think we escrowed some too, but I know we have at least 50.
Okay. All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Didn't comply. Let's move forward, in my opinion.
So at this point, what would be appropriate would be go out to bid for it, and it would still come back to this board once we open up bids. But if you feel it's appropriate, we'll go out and get some bids and bring it back to you.
Is there anything wrong with bidding 3-on-1 to maybe reduce the mobilization fees?
I don't see why we couldn't do it. There should actually be, you're looking at 2 demos today potentially, and one's actually a different issue on 516 Ninth Street, which we'll get to in just a minute. But potentially you could, where I can go ahead and mention to you, the one on 903 16th Street. The house there, basically the same thing. The house has been sitting there. That one actually, I believe, had some damage after Hurricane Michael. There was somebody that was living in a camper next door to it on the property, and they have not brought the house up to code. So potentially you have 2 that you could demo.
That house is occupied.
I think that one had somebody in a camper. I think they're back and forth between the camper, which is another violation. So
Is this the one where the mother contacted me and I think others asked, and if they would refused to do the homestead exemption. And
That on Fourth Street, I believe, wasn't it?
the one I'm thinking about, the Ramsey guy used to live in it.
That's not it.
West Ramsey. Okay, so that's not this house. Okay.
That's the bottom part of 16th Street.
Okay.
This one is on the other side of Pearson Avenue on the left-hand side.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Okay, we'll, need a motion to combine these two, and, go forth with the requested actions and allow the city to, go out to bid for demolition of those two.
So moved.
Okay? Motion, there a second? Second by Commissioner Lynch. Discussion, anybody?
I have one question.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we're following the protocol that we have always followed in the past. Where are we getting the information on that protocol as to what happens at the step we're at today? And then if we have no response, what do we do? Where are we pulling that information from?
Your standard procedure is with code enforcement is normally you'll have code enforcement will find a violation. Okay, they'll have a violation, they'll send them a notice, they'll have X number of days to resolve the issue. At some point during that process, whether it be 1, 2, or 3 notice, it goes to the special master. Once the special master hears it, which is advertising, gives them due process on there, at that point, then we have to make a decision. Do we just let it sit out there with this order sitting out here? What do we do with it? As being the final authority, at that point, we bring it to the city commission.
Is that played out and covered in statute, or is that city ordinance information?
The whole general step for it is laid out in Florida statute.
That's what I was thinking, because we referred to that when we had the house over here and we worked with the county. I remember us talking about.
We've done it before where we've ordered the place to be torn down. For instance, we had some places in North Port St. Joe. I remember years ago, I ordered that they were be torn down because they were a threat to the health and safety of the community. We've let some go, and then when they went to sell the place, we ended up getting our money back and everything like that. It's worked out both ways over the last 15 years.
Scott, I think we only started putting money in our account for this purpose only maybe the year before you got here.
Right.
It's not something we ever budgeted for.
Run out of the money, yeah.
And county, on occasion helps us.
Right.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passed 4-0.
The last one we have is a special order came down in reference to James Massey, 516 Ninth Street. This house has had violation for the last couple of years. The one that has not been resolved that we're looking at today is in reference to some sheds that have been put on the property. If you will turn to page, let's see, page 121 and 122, it kind of defines what the issue is at hand. On page 121, you'll see where Mr. Massey had turned in a plan to remove his old shed and put a new one in place. Okay, and if you'll turn over to page 122, you'll see the drawing that shows where the two were actually placed, partially on the neighbor's property. So now we have a debate as to what we're gonna do with two sheds that are partially on the neighbor's property and in the setback line on his own property. So we have a decision, are we going to go out there and pay somebody to move these sheds and put them back behind his property and make them in compliance with city code and setbacks? Or do we remove the sheds altogether? You know, that's the kind of thing we gotta make a decision on.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm getting sick and tired of people taking advantage of them. I'd hook them up and bring them to John's yard.
Yeah.
I mean, he's blatantly violated his
Yeah, I
permit.
mean, that's ridiculous. This is insane.
And I know a little bit about this because I know his next door neighbor, and I tried to get involved to try and get this done. And at one point, I had the company that placed the sheds there willing to pay to move them because they were worried about the fact that they violated the permit and they didn't want to have any problems with getting permits to put sheds in Port St. Joe going forward. Mr. Massey didn't want to hear none of it, told me to go jump in the lake. And that's where we're at.
What is the monetary fine for every day they're past their code violation?
I don't know we'll be able to look in the order.
Might be another revenue source for the city if he wants to keep them there.
And if we did move them, just like if we do get into demo, what we do is we lien the property. So if you decided today that we were gonna move these sheds back and get them in compliance with city code on them, put them back behind the house, we would lien Mr. Massey's property for the amount that the city's out to do this.
And then that depends on whether he's got a mortgage on the property and numerous different things.
He's obviously not gonna move them.
He's not.
The special magistrate said, move them.
He told me I had it worked out where he wasn't gonna have to pay anything to move
Is
it.
there any liability to the city if we move them and there's any damage done to them?
At this particular juncture, I mean, no, because I mean, he's forcing us to do something.
All right.
And then,
Entertain a motion to, for the actions that were set forth by the special magistrate, which is to move the sheds.
or just at least get a bid and bring it back.
Where they're
Same.
legal.
We would need to go out to bid to get one of these moving companies to move them back and make them legal.
Well, I don't think you'd have to go out to bid, because it's gonna be under your bid threshold, I'm sure.
You've got contractors in town like Lowell's that can pick those up and move them.
Yeah, we just had a little shed like that moved.
And
it was only like
We'll bring back some
$300.
quotes and see if we get.
Okay.
If it's the wish of the
Still
board,
need a
move
motion to do
So
it.
moved, yes.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Ashbrook. There's a second. Second by Commissioner Hopper. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye, same sign, motion passed 4-0. All right, Chief, you're on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The only thing I have is, one of my employees brought it back up. And I went and talked to Jim, and, we had talked about this sick leave for, people that work other than 8-hour shifts. And I think, as I remember, everybody was in agreement that whatever shift you worked is what sick leave you should accrue. We just never, I guess, the commission didn't vote on it or something,
Yes, sir. We would
for
actually need
Jim to
to,
change the policy.
but we would need to change the personnel policy, which I understand it makes perfect sense. Basically, a standard employee gets 8 hours a month of sick leave. So if they take a day off, they only work 8 hours, so they're made flush. If a police officer today takes off a day off, they have to sign up for 12 hours and they only receive 8 during the month. So staff recommendation is that we amend our personnel policy to allow for the 12-hour shift folks to get 12 hours of sick
Right.
leave. a month.
If, or whatever permit shift you're on, whether it be 10-hour, 8-hour, 12-hour, that's the time to accrue your permanent assigned shift.
Yeah, the accrual rate should be based on the number of hours worked anyway.
That is right.
Hey, it's my understanding, we brought this up, we agreed on it, and we instructed staff to make the change at that time. So with that, if somebody has information other than that, I think the motion should actually be to make it retroactive to the meeting and the date that it was discussed and passed. So if it wasn't voted on, it should have been, but I believe it was. So if we owe some time in the arrears, we should make them whole.
Okay.
I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Hoffman. Second. To, make these changes and make them retroactive to the time if we voted to do it.
Well, not if we voted to do it, if we discussed it and directed staff to make a change. If we didn't vote on it, then we should have voted on it, then I don't think that should be laid on the employee who's out of time.
But it could have been, in the middle of budget, discussions too, and that's where we usually go and say, you need to make these changes and put it in the budget. I assume that's maybe what we did. I don't know.
I think it was after that, when the chief first brought it up. But somebody can go back and watch some meetings or look at the minutes.
Okay, there's a motion, we're second, you second it, okay? Any more discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passes 4-0. Okay, let's see, Ms. Pierce, You got
So I don't
anything?
have anything new other than to reiterate what's already been said about the phone meeting we had with MLD and our grant writer. And they are working to revise the scope of work for the bid. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to attempt to answer them.
Okay, anybody? All right, citizens to be heard, anybody like to speak? Okay, Commissioner Hoffman, you first on the list,
I don't have anything.
all right.
Mayor, I just had one quick question to follow up on the lobby firm, the contract that we discussed. Have we made contact? And if so, what are their plans? Are they gonna come talk to us? Kind of want to know what they're gonna do for us.
We have signed the contract, they've acknowledged it, and we have them set up as our lobbyists, but there's, the next step would be to set up and give them a list. So if you got items that you would like for them to be looking for, help for with this year in the budget cycle, or
Would y'all rather have a workshop that we all could?
I would like to meet once at least, since we're paying them $6,000 a month.
Sure. Yeah. All right, let's, get in contact with, Mr. Smith, if you would, and, see what his openings are, and get up with us, and we'll see if we can get a workshop. Everybody can be present. We need to prioritize what we want to go after for sure.
That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, Mr. License.
Yes, I wanna talk about, scheduling a CRA meeting. I think, our next, commissioner meeting, I wouldn't mind doing it probably at 11 o'clock,
Okay.
if everybody agrees with that.
Sure.
And also, the new member, did we ever get that extra member?
Never voted on
We were gonna do that. at the
You're gonna do
CRA.
that next CRA.
Okay, I'm just, making sure and confirming, and also I wanted to say something about the application process myself, about, we need to make it clear when people apply for jobs, we need to make it clear the skill level that we're looking for. Instead of those people putting the application in, and then advertising the job when we have 3 or 4 people that already put an application in. I think that they should be interviewed. I don't think it's fair that we advertise a job when we have 3 people qualified here and we haven't interviewed them at all. So that's one of the things that I would like to see as far as the hiring process. I don't like to get too much in it. I have referred some people, and some people haven't been hired, some have been hired. Some turned out to be good, some haven't turned out to be good. I just think it'll be a fair process if we just interview those that put the applications in instead of just, or if they don't have a skill set, then you re-advertise. At least you'll have it there on the application or on the website saying these are the skills that we're looking for. And people won't waste their time just filling the application out and not even being heard from. That's all I have.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, when we advertise a job, we post it in the Star, we post it on our website, and it refers them to our website from the Star or other places that you can see what we're looking for. We do post what our skill sets are, what is required, but it is posted. I just think they don't go look, they think, oh, I'll just run down and fill out an application, because a lot of times nothing is listed that's in the skill set. Where if they had read it, they would have seen, I can do this, this, and this and draw from it, but we do, Commissioner, we do put that out there for them.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. What else, sir?
That's it.
That's it, okay. Only thing I have, I want to report to the board that I received a letter from Rebecca Norris, Gulf County Clerk. And it says, Dear City Commissioner Mayor Brazett, this letter is information to inform the city of an unsolicited proposal from the Gulf County Board of County Commissioners. Encloses a copy of the public notice regarding the land pledge and transfer of the proposed planning, design, and construction and operation of the Gulf County Regional Airport Facility. So it appears, and I'm gonna turn this into Ms. Pierce to put it in public records. It appears it's a public-private partnership between Gulf County and an entity not listed in this proposal. And they're gonna be looking for 459 acres within 10 miles of Port St. Joe and within 5 miles of Apalachicola Northern Railroad. So, it's quite lengthy. I'm gonna give it to Ms. Pierce. Anybody like to read it? It's interesting. And, so it appears that the county is gonna, obtain the property, develop it, and lease it out to somebody. Yeah, so, anywho, and of course, it'll be a lease and hopefully they break even, but anyway, I'll hand this to Ms. Pierce at the end of the meeting, and, anybody like to look at it, it's public record.
I got some messages.
Okay, sure.
There's some good news. Yesterday, I was talking with Commissioner Quinn at the Martin Luther King celebration at Washington High, and, through the, help of Representative Dunn, we received, I think he said $500,000 to do work on Washington High gym.
Oh, man.
He pushed the funds through, Representative, Dunn pushed the funds through, and they found out yesterday, day before that, the funds were approved, and, he told me to let you know that, we'll be in contact, about interlocal agreement, and, that's some good news.
That's great news. That would be specific to the gym or maybe the whole complex area?
The whole complex.
Because we need, roofs and things like that on some of those outbuildings.
Definitely. So that's some good news.
Absolutely.
Great news.
Great news, is right. Okay, nothing else. We'll stand adjourned. Oh, okay.
Online with that, that's for the recreation side of it, that's not the workforce area. You know what I'm talking about, right?
That's the,
Just for the gym and all the recreation facilities,
that's the complex.
that whole entire complex.
That covers everything.
That's cool.
Okay,
We'll, I'm sure
all right, we'll
it'll
talk
be,
about the CRA.
I'm sure it'll be specifically spelled out. Yeah.
I talked to Commissioner Quinn, because he knows more about it. That's the county. That's who we need to, talk
The
to.
county, got the grant.
Because I thought it was for,
It's for the gym, but it's through the county. So
All right,
that's who we need to talk to, Commissioner Quinn.
Thank y'all for coming. Please.